Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the second overall spot using FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. We're going to be drafting up against the expert consensus rankings, as well as the composite ADP from ESPN, NFL, Sleeper, as well as RT Sports. The roster positions for today's mock draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, a kicker, a defense, and 6 bench spots. But before we could get into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure they do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 10-team PPR mock draft from the second overall spot. The only adjustment I made to positional values is increasing the value of wide receivers to high, because I believe this year, unlike in prior years, we're going to be seeing wide receivers come off the board at a much higher rate early on in fantasy drafts. So the 101 of this draft was Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson is going to be the number 1 overall pick in at least 50+% of drafts, closer to 60%. And then the other leagues, I think people either take Christian McCaffrey, some people might like Jamar Chase, or maybe even Tyreek Hill at the 101. So at the 102, knowing right now that Joe Burrow should be good, I feel somewhat confident in Jamar Chase. Obviously, there is still that worry in the back of my head that maybe Joe Burrow isn't good to go by week 1, or maybe Joe Burrow is playing week 1, but because of that injury, it impacts him in some way, right? Maybe he's not able to adjust, move up in the pocket, and throw a dart down the field to Jamar Chase, or maybe that injury gets re-aggravated early on in the season, and maybe he misses half the season or something like that. Now, obviously, I am as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, and I'm not saying that that is going to happen, but that is something that is in the back of my mind when drafting, because this is something that I talk about a ton. You don't want to be going into your draft chasing injuries. I do really believe that Joe Burrow will be fine, so I'm not panicking a ton. I just think it's something to talk about when making this pick. So for me, this pick is either going to be Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, or Christian McCaffrey. This time, I think we will go with CMC at the 102. I think Christian McCaffrey is an incredibly safe pick, while also having the upside to easily be the RB1 in fantasy football. The 49ers offense is set up to have a running back like Christian McCaffrey run for a gazillion yards. Kyle Shanahan is a run game guru. Christian McCaffrey could see over 100 targets this season. He could easily be the RB number 1. This is a team with a great offensive line, an offense that is going to be humming game in and game out, whether it's Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, or Trey Lance. I think it's going to be Brock Purdy. I have full confidence in McCaffrey. A lot of people were nervous to draft McCaffrey last year, but if you faded McCaffrey, you felt like a bit of a bozo. So after Christian McCaffrey, we saw Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, and Bijan Robinson. So Travis Kelce at the 105 is the earliest I would pull the trigger on him in a 10-team league. I talk about this a ton in 10-team mock drafts. Compared to a 12-team league, I really do believe the tight end position is significantly more important, because getting the edge up on tight end means more, because in a 10-team league, most teams are going to be stacked. Even the guy or the gal in your league that doesn't know shit about football in a 10-team league is probably going to have a semi-decent team, whereas in a 12-team league, that team might look like a fucking crater hit it, right? It might not even have any good running backs by like week 3 of the season. But in 10-team leagues, everyone's team is stacked, but the way you get different, the way you reach above those opponents, is by having that elite tight end, potentially having that elite quarterback. This team goes with Kelce as well as Patrick Mahomes. So the earliest I would go for Kelce in a 10-team league is the 5th pick. At the second overall pick, I am basically pigeonholed out of my strategy that I like to use, at least for Travis Kelce, because I am not comfortable taking Kelce over Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey. To me, that just doesn't really make sense. So the second round opens with the boy 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Patrick Mahomes, Ramondre Stevenson, and A.J. Brown. I am someone that likes Hurts more than Patrick Mahomes. I get why someone might take Patrick Mahomes in the second round, but for me, I think you are really losing out on the great running backs, the great wide receivers in the second round. to where I'm trying to push things to the third round. I get if you want to have the super Kansas City stack, where the upside is Kelsey's the tight end one, Mahomes is the quarterback one, and you just bitch slap your way through every single opponent. I get that. But I am going to hold out hope if I'm this player that I can get Mahomes in the third round, and here I can get a different player, a running back or a wide receiver. Tony Pollard would have been my pick there at that spot. So we have Christian McCaffrey. Looking at the board, best players available are Tony Pollard, in my opinion, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Here, since we already do have a running back, I think we are going to end up going with a wide receiver here. I would be fine if Derrick Henry fell to me in order to take another running back, but if not, I'm probably just gonna start gobbling up these wide receivers in this range that I really like. I have been a huge fan of the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown, ever since the offseason. I talked him up a ton last season. Obviously, that worked out pretty well. I think this Lions team is going to be one of the better offenses in the NFL. Their defense is still pretty mid, so they're going to have to be throwing the ball at a pretty decent rate. I think this is a team that may not throw a ton in the red zone, but I don't think that necessarily diminishes the value of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even if he is a guy that doesn't score 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, I think he will still be fine, right? Last year in PPR, he was a top 10 wide receiver with only 6 touchdowns, and that's because the target volume is there. I think the volume is going to be there yet again in 2023, and I have sung the praises of Jared Goff a ton. I don't think Jared Goff's the best quarterback in the NFL, but I think the way people kind of shit on guys like Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, is kind of just unwarranted. After Amon-Ra, Tony Pollard, and Garrett Wilson, I would have loved to get Tony Pollard on the way back, but that's okay because I still do like Derrick Henry or the value at wide receivers. So to me, I think Jalen Waddle is a tier above guys like Olave, Smith, and T. Higgins. The reason why I think so is because I feel as though we know the guaranteed volume with Jalen Waddle, and we understand that there is legitimate top 5 upside with Tua Tagovailoa healthy in this offense. If Tua ends up getting hurt, then Jalen Waddle's value probably falls off the edge of the fucking earth, Christopher Columbus style. But if Tua is able to stay healthy for a majority of the season, Jalen Waddle really does have that big upside. This is going to be one of the better offenses in the NFL, and Jalen Waddle could take a ball that is thrown 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and run past the whole fucking defense like they are playing the Tecmo Bowl video game, right? Just run past everyone. Maybe he could even run backwards like he's playing Call of Duty Zombies, train the defense, and run into the end zone, right? Jalen Waddle's speed is insane. Speed kills in the NFL. A guy like Jalen Waddle could put up 30-plus points in any given matchup because of it. For me, it's close between him and Derrick Henry. If I went with, say, Jamar Chase in the first round, I probably would have wanted to secure Derrick Henry here in the third round. I love Derrick Henry as much as the next guy, but I think I'm going to lean Jalen Waddle here, though it is incredibly close. Let me know in the comment section if you had the team we have. Would you have selected Derrick Henry or Jalen Waddle? We will lean with Jalen Waddle this time, but I do understand that the running backs that we are going to be getting a little bit later aren't going to be the hottest, but I have been praising for months and hyping up the hero running back draft strategy, and I think that might be the strategy we look to employ today, which is drafting a running back in either the first or second round and then hammering in on some wide receivers, maybe even sprinkling a quarterback or a tight end, and then you kind of get your running back too that you're going to be cycling in and out of your lineup. It'll be easier explained if you don't understand what I'm kind of talking about as we get deeper into the draft. So after Waddle, Derrick Henry, Chris Olave, Mark Andrews, T. Higgins, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, Josh Allen, Devontae Smith, Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, and Miles Sanders. If you get Jalen Hurts in the 4th round, I would probably ejaculate in my pants. I would be so excited because I think Jalen Hurts could easily be the quarterback 1 in fantasy football this year. I am fine taking him even at the 302 where I took Waddle. In the back of my head, I know I didn't say it, but I was considering taking Jalen Hurts. Again, in a 10-team league, a lot of these teams are going to be stacked. So how do you get in front of that? You have that elite tight end like Kelsey, or you have that elite quarterback like Mahomes, like Allen, like Hurts, who could take you over the top every single week. So a glass of Chardonnay, pretty funny name, took Kelsey, Mahomes, Andrews, and Metcalf. This strategy is called the bully tight end strategy. I don't like it very much, if I'm being honest with you. You're going to rely on Kelsey as your tight end and then Andrews as a flex week in and week out. Sure, it definitely can work. My dad won our league of record, our 14-team league a couple of years ago using 2 tight ends. So I know for a fact that it works. It can win you your league, just not something that I'm necessarily targeting. Like, if Andrews fell to me in the 4th round and I had Kelsey, then maybe I would legitimately think about it, because even if you don't love having the 2 tight ends on your team, maybe you can end up trading him at some point. But in the 3rd round, you're basically taking him at his ADP. I would not be looking to do that. Again, Allen at the end of the 3rd, Hurts in the middle of the 4th. Great value for those quarterbacks, especially since I feel like if I don't take one of these quarterbacks by my next 2 picks here, there are definitely a bunch of quarterbacks will probably end up going in the 5th and the 6th round. That's normally how things go. So looking at the running backs, Kenneth Walker, Dobbins, Akers available. Kenneth Walker still dealing with the groin injury. Zach Charbonnet is now practicing. This just seems like a scenario where you want to just right now avoid it. I get if by the end of August, early September, when you're doing your fantasy football draft, if Walker's fully healthy, he heals from the groin, and Charbonnet is healthy, which he is right now, then I get why you might want to draft Walker in the 4th round. I get it. You might think he's better than Charbonnet, this, that, and the other thing. But right now, today, August 4th, I don't think you should be chasing the injuries. I talk about this a ton. Do not chase the injuries, because the injuries are going to find you. And when they find you, things don't end pretty in that way. And again, I really do continue to preach early on in your fantasy football draft. Try to wrap the condom around your team. Keep things safe. There's no need to take crazy risks like a guy like Kenneth Walker right now, or if you want to draft J.K. Dobbins. Maybe you love the player J.K. Dobbins. I like the player J.K. Dobbins, but I think he's a risk because right now he's on the PUP and he's fucking holding out. Now, do I think he's going to hold the Baltimore Ravens by the balls all season? No, because he has 0 leverage. But I do worry that what if he comes back towards the end of the preseason and the team says, hey, Dobbins, where have you been, pal? Ride the pine, or maybe not ride the pine, but maybe you get less work. And there's already a team that is going to be throwing the ball more. So now you're kind of screwed. So that's just kind of how I think of things. Again, these running backs, like I like Akers, I like Connor, I like Pierce. Not in the 4th round, though, of a 10-team league. Like right here is not where I'm looking to take them. Cooper, Ridley. Cooper's dealing with an injury. We're going to go with Calvin Ridley at this spot. I have been praising Calvin Ridley for a long time, ever since he got reinstated to the Jacksonville Jaguars after that gambling fiasco that is just the new craze in the NFL. Calvin Ridley was at one point one of the best receivers in the National Football League. He was putting up huge numbers with Julio Jones. I get some people say he's been rusty, this, that, and the other thing. He doesn't look rusty in any of the clips I've seen of him. All of the blurbs out of training camp are basically sucking the schlong of Calvin Ridley. He's the clear wide receiver 1 in an offense that's trajectory is going to smash directly through the moon, because I think that this Jaguars offense is going to be on fire all year long. So the question is, do we want to take Lamar here, or do we want to pray to the fantasy gods above, because 3 teams over here already have a quarterback, that Fields, Lamar fall here? Because I know I like Lamar and Fields significantly more than the others. Burrow's fine, but there's that injury risk right now. And then you get to like Herbert, Lawrence. To me, those guys are basically the same. Like, one's going to outscore the other one, and maybe one finishes 3 spots ahead of the other. But in looking at it from a draft perspective, I would rather just have whoever falls later. And if I did a bunch of drafts, then I'd probably want Herbert in. If I was going to take a quarterback in that range, I wouldn't take Herbert 7 times out of 10. I'd probably take Herbert 5 times, Lawrence the other 5 times, right? Because I don't have too much conviction on those guys. So I think we're going to go with Lamar here. I know sometimes Justin Fields really does fall, but I think as we get deeper and deeper, balls deep into August, people are going to start to realize the amount of skill that Justin Fields has, the league-breaking potential, right? If this bastard runs for 1,000 yards, he gets better at throwing. DJ Moore really helps. The offensive line gets a little bit better. The offense as a whole starts humming like a bird better. then Fields really does have the upside to be the QB1. I think so does Lamar. Again, I do think this team is going to be more pass heavy, but that doesn't mean that Lamar Jackson is going to just stand in the pocket like a fucking statue, right? He's still going to run around a ton, still going to look like Michael Vick out there. So I'm a big fan of Lamar Jackson. His game, I think he could easily be the #1 receiver in fantasy. I think this is the best wide receiver core he's ever had. I know Rashad Master Bateman is dealing with an injury, and who knows how that will go, right? Like, it's always scary with injuries, but they have Zay Flowers, they have Odell, they have Mark Andrews. So I think even if Rashad Bateman isn't at 100% to start the season, or maybe all season long, it's kind of he's in, he's out, he's up, and he's down, I still think that you're going to be fine with Lamar Jackson this season. So I'm a big fan of Lamar. Obviously, Justin Fields does fall to us because that's what I said would happen. It's always what happens, but then I really do think in real drafts, especially in 10-team leagues, if your league mates kind of follow the ideology, the smart ideology of, hey, you kind of want to get that quarterback that has the upside to be the QB1 earlier in drafts, I think Fields will go again. And I don't think Burrow should be going ahead of Fields right now, even in the slightest. So after Lamar, George Kittle me Timbers, Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Wiki, EJ Hawkinson, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Damian Pierce, Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson, Mike Williams, Joe Shiesty, Drizzy, Drake, London, Jerry Jeudy, and Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Obviously, if I could take things back, maybe I would have taken a different player. Instead of Lamar, for instance, maybe we could have taken D-Hop. But I'm just making an educated guess that I don't think Fields will fall to us. And that's just how things go. Sometimes that's just how that shit goes, as Drizzy Drake would say. So we are back up on the board here. Tight ends at this point, like, I like Goddard, but Goddard is just a safe option. You take Goddard, your balls aren't tingling, right? You're not feeling anything. No blood is flowing downstairs when you draft Goddard. You want to know why? It's because he's just a safe bet. Like, you know what he's going to do. He's going to be a top 6, 7 tight end. Probably not going to finish as tight end 1, but you're probably not going to be pissed you drafted him. Whereas Waller, Pitts, right? These guys could be humongous busts. These guys could explode Oppenheimer style, right? Or they could end up being amazing. So I'm not really looking, especially in a 10-team league, like where the waiver wire, like I could just pull a tight end out of thin air. Houdini. I'm not fucking, I don't know. Like, Goddard just seems like such a safe option. Like, it just doesn't seem like something you want to do in a 10-team. Again, I don't think he's a bad pick, but just nothing exciting about it. So I'm going to wait on tight end. Maybe the boy Darren Waller will fall to us in the 7th or maybe even the 8th round. I'd be willing to wait, even though I really like him. A lot of talk out of training camp is buzzing him up. We already have Ridley. I don't love Christian Kirk, but I still do understand that this is going to be a high-flying offense. He's going to score a bunch of points. I love Michael Pittman. I like Hollywood Brown a ton as well, but I think we want to go running back here. Alexander Mattison, there was a report a couple days ago while I was on vacation. He didn't finish practice, and I saw that notification. I was sitting poolside, drinking a fucking margarita, and I was like, I felt like I was shot in the heart. That's how I felt. I was so mad. And then today he was practicing, or yesterday as we're watching it, he was practicing. So I think Madison has that top 12 upside. Now I know they have other running backs there. I know Madison's efficiency is going to drop. No, there's definitely risk in Madison, right? There's risk when you take him higher than where we're getting him here. So we're going to go with Alexander Mattison to clear up our RB2 here. And it makes me a lot more confident in our running back room. I like Cam Akers. I like James Conner. But I don't know. Madison just feels a little bit safer than those, right? The offense just feels safer, right? You know what the Minnesota Vikings are. Sure, they're not this team that just churns the rock, runs the rock at an incredibly high rate anymore. They just aren't under their new head coach, Kevin O'Connell. But they're still going to give carries to Madison. He's still going to catch passes. Whereas, like, the Cardinals, like, I love James Conner. James Conner has been a beast without Kyler Murray. But there's a chance that the Arizona Cardinals are just getting butt-fucked every single game, right? And Conner just isn't given the opportunity. Akers, there's a chance Stafford gets hurt. Stafford's not the same guy. The Rams are fucking on their belly getting patted all game long, right? Just getting destroyed. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit... Again, I'm not saying they're bad picks, but it does somewhat scare me. Again, I do like Connor here. We haven't taken much Ayuk. I don't love Debo and Kittle because of where they go, but Ayuk does get that multiple round discount from those guys. So I think the 49ers offense is going to be explosive. I think Ayuk has looked good in training camp. There's a lot of really positive reports for him. Of course, FantasyPros doesn't have any news for him because why would you need news on a player that's a 6th round pick in most 12-team leagues, right? It is what it is, but I think that Brandon Ayuk's going to have a pretty good season. It's just not going to be reliable week in and week out, right? When you draft Ayuk, you know, there's going to be weeks where he smacks you, Mike Tyson punch-out style, but there's going to be games where he pulls his pants down and lays a deuce on your opponent's chest, so you kind of have to take it with the punches. In this kind of a league where you're most likely going to be starting, right? The way that this league is built, you're most likely starting 4 receivers every single week, unless you go robust running back, right? If I drafted McCaffrey, and then I went Pollard, and then I went Henry, sure, then you could start 3 running backs every single week, but that's not the strategy we went with. I guess you could technically play Connor if you drafted him here, who I like a decent amount, but I think I'm just going to wait and try to find some value at running back later. I kind of want to go Ayuk here again. I haven't really been all over Ayuk, but I draft Pittman so often, Hollywood Brown so often, that I think we're going to go with Ayuk here again. He definitely does have that risk of just being a dud in certain weeks, but if something was to happen to Debo, knock on wood, or George Kittle, I think that the idea that Ayuk could finish top 12 definitely becomes more apparent. Some people say, Nick, why are you drafting 2 players that are on the same team, right? You have McCaffrey. Why did you just draft Ayuk? Now, my philosophy on this is very simple. You're drafting, say, the running back on the Eagles and a receiver on the Eagles. I will do that because they are the Eagles. They're going to be good. Presumably, right? As long as Hurts doesn't get hurt. On wood. The Niners, presumably, should be a top-end offense in the NFL. So if I get McCaffrey and Ayuk, I'm not shitting myself. But if I have Rashad White and Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, then some worry because that team could legitimately implode on themselves. This is a team that could sink. This is a team that in any given week could get their back blown out and you end up just being very disappointed. Whereas the Niners, that's less likely to happen. There's offenses like Ravens, maybe like even the Ravens. Like I don't like Dobbins, but for instance, Dobbins reports to camp. He's good to go. You had Dobbins and you had Andrews. I wouldn't feel too crazy about that, right? But I don't know if I'd necessarily want Dobbins, Andrews, and Lamar all on the same team. I hope you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from there. If you have any questions about it, leave it in the comments. If you have any questions about anything, leave it in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below while you are down there. So we don't have a tight end, but after we drafted Ayuk, Michael Pittman, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Hollywood Brown, Dalvin Cook, I need Dalvin Cook to just sign with the team. It doesn't seem like it's going to be the Jets, so maybe the boy Breece Hall has been set free, metaphorically. But man, oh man, this, like, Dalvin Cook, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Zeke, just fucking signed to a team, Kareem Hunt. It's August already. We're getting close to fantasy drafts, and they haven't signed yet. This might be a domino that doesn't fall until, maybe some of these backs don't sign until during the season, which is possible. I think Dalvin Cook will sign now, but I think, like, maybe Kareem Hunt is, like, just chilling on waivers, and then magically he is inserted into a really good spot 4 weeks into the season. After Cook, Kirk, Evans, Dallas Goedert, Rashad with 2 A's, White, George Pickens, Trevor Lawrence, James Conner, Kadarius Toney, literally worst pick. Don't draft Toney. Burks, Swift, Dotson, Watson. What a rhyme. Dotson, Watson. I love Deshaun Watson. I just don't think I want him around after Justin Herbert, if I'm being honest with you. But maybe that's just how the cookie crumbles in a lot of these drafts. So looking at tight end, it's between Waller and Pitts. I've taken Waller a bunch. I've sung the praises of Waller a million times. So I think if you're doing a lot of different drafts, you don't want just Waller on every team because Waller gets hurt. I've talked about this a ton. You're fucked, right? When you're in the 13th round, if you really like some sleeper, right? Draft them every time. It doesn't matter as much. But in the 8th round, it matters a little bit more. I definitely feel way more confident in Waller, but I want some Pitts on my teams because while I understand Kyle Pitts was a disaster last year, he scored 3 fucking touchdowns in the National Football League. And while I don't think Ritter's all that great, I think this offense is going to still be able to move the ball. I think Pitts is a guy that is a generational talent at tight end. So I'm going to take more of the risky option to me and Pitts over Waller, but I still think that both of those guys would be fine options if I'm being honest with you. After Pitts, Brandon Cooks, Jordan Addison, Ray. We are back up on the board. I think it's time to take another running back here. I have talked about Javonte Williams in a video a couple of days ago. Javonte Williams was a guy that Early on in the offseason, I was all over. I was like, dude, this guy's going to be playing a couple weeks in the season. It is what it is. And then I started to be like, you know what? Maybe I like Samaje Perine better. And then recently, it's like Javonte Williams isn't going on the pup. Javonte Williams is practicing. They're saying Javonte Williams is going to right here sit. He's going to play in the preseason. He's going to play, according to what Sean Payton said, I think preseason week 2. So we'll see, right? If he goes out there, he doesn't look like he can cut, things start looking bad, then yeah, maybe I'll panic. But right now, I think Javonte Williams' trajectory is up, 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 up. Like, I think if we get to late August, Javonte Williams is cutting, right? He looks good. Then people are going to start screaming him up draft boards. We're going to go with Javonte here. Again, I'm really confident in McCaffrey and Madison, so I don't think that is that big of a risk. And again, we're going to be, since we did utilize the hero running back strategy, we are going to be drafting some more running backs here later on after Javonte, James Cook, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Alvin Kamara, who we still don't know how long he's going to be suspended for. It's going to be at least 2 games. I would say probably closer to 6. Antonio Gibson, Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Darren Waller, Cortland Sutton, Jerick McKinnon, A.J. Dillon, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, Brian Robinson, Gabe Davis, Jamal with 2 A's, Williams. We are back up on the board here. I think Samaje Perine could still be successful while Javonte Williams is successful, but I'm not someone who drafts Javonte in round 9 and then is like, oh, let me handcuff him with Samaje Perine. I don't fuck with that strategy. Like, I don't think that you really need to do that. Maybe if they're not firing up Javonte at maximum capacity for the first few weeks, maybe that makes sense, but I'd rather just take a shot on another running back, if I'm being honest with you. Like, Khalil Herbert's been a guy that has been heavily on my board. I think he's going to be the lead back in Chicago. He was incredibly efficient last season, can catch passes. He's not like McCaffrey or something, but I think there's an offense that's going to be putting up a lot of points, and I think that's going to help out Khalil Herbert. After that, Quentin Johnston and Rashad Master Bateman. So I think we should go with another running back here, potentially. Now, Zach Charbonnet is looking like he is going to be good to go. Now, it seemed bad, right? They're like, the shoulder looks real bad. This guy is out indefinitely, this, that, and the other thing. And Pete Carroll was just singing us a song of a lie. It was Fugazi. It was a wazi. It was a woozy, because Zach Charbonnet fucking practiced yesterday, right? He returned to practice after it seemed like his value was dead in the ditch. I think this guy could overtake Kenneth Walker as the starter. If Walker continues to deal with the groin injury, Zach Charbonnet is going to rise up draft boards as well. So I think we're just kind of getting ahead of things here, playing the ADP game, getting guys that I like, and then we could just smash receivers with the last couple of picks here. Again, if you are willing to draft, like, I don't always draft quarterback early, tight end in like the 8th round. Sometimes I draft my quarterback and my tight end super late. But in this scenario, we don't do that. So if you draft Pitts, right, I know I'm not fully, like, when I draft Pitts, I'm not fully like, I know why I draft, like, I know why I drafted him. It's because the upside. But I don't always, there's still like a little bit of nerves, the butterflies in your chest, like when you first go to talk to a girl, right? And guy, maybe you're a woman, or if you're a guy as well, you know, you go and start feeling a little bit nervous, right? You start feeling a little bit scared. You start having fucking word salad in your mouth. You start talking, sounds like you sound like fucking Forrest Gump, right? You forgot how to talk. Today, Junior, that's a different movie, but you get what I mean, with Adam Sandler. But you just start talking a little crazy, right? That's how it feels when you go to draft Pitts, right? You feel your heart start beating out of your fucking chest, but you know deep down he's got the upside. So if I draft Lamar in the 5th, I'm not just drafting fucking Kirko Chains onto my team, right? I'm not drafting Geno Smith, Jared Goff. I'm just rolling with Lamar. If I draft Pitts, I'm not just trying to go ass backwards and handcuff him with Gerald Everett or something. I'm just rocking with Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts is rocking with me. After Zach Charbonnet, Damian Harris, Elijah Moore, Michael Thomas, Jacoby Myers, Jameson Williams, 49ers defense, Jeff Wilson Jr., Eagles defense, Alan Lazard, Freiermuth, Samaje, Zay Flowers, Nico, Collins Devin, 2 Chains, Sky Moore, and Elijah Mitchell, who just got hurt. Doesn't seem like anything serious, but again, I'm still confident in McCaffrey. It just seems like the 49ers, for at least like the last 5 years, their running back, except for, knock on wood, we're not rooting for injuries here. We're praying to the football gods no one gets hurt, but feels like every year, like, their running back room is just cursed. Like the Dolphins, they built their fucking stadium on an ancient burial ground. Genius move, Dolphins. Hopefully everyone stays okay this year. Shout out to the Miami Dolphins, my favorite team. So we're back up on the board here. Looking at receiver, Mooney, Rondale Moore, Zay Jones, Boyd, Thielen. Now, I think if you're just trying to be as safe as possible, Boyd's a pretty safe pick, assuming that Burrow stays healthy. And he does have like really high upside if something was to happen to one of the other receivers. But then you're just preying on others' downfall. I'd rather just take the shot that, again, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be all that great, but you just take the shot on the number 2 receiver there. Their defense isn't the greatest. They're going to have to throw a lot late in games because they're going to be getting blown the fuck out. They might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, so you just take the shot on Rondale Moore, cementing himself as the number 2 guy. After we went with Rondale Moore came Michael Gallup and Evan Engram. Probably going to end up going wide receiver here again, if we're being honest, even though I'm pretty confident in my wide receiver core. Just adding some other bodies to the room. I start to really like Darnell Mooney. I get that there's risks, obviously, right? The Bears aren't going to be throwing the ball at the most exorbitant rate ever, and Darnell Mooney kind of shit the bed last year, but he was pretty efficient with when he caught the ball. I really like Darnell Mooney, but I think we're going to go for more of an upside shot here. Once you get super late in 10-team leagues, like ADP just doesn't matter as much. Like if it's going to tell me I reached like 3 rounds to get a guy that I want, I don't really care. I've been someone who has been riding the bandwagon of Hodgins, but I want Jalen Hyatt. I don't see him right here. Jalen Hyatt, all the way down here. This guy has been, looking really good in camp. Of course, again, FantasyPros doesn't want to fucking tell us that. He's been looking really good in camp. Maybe he does become the number 1 receiver on the Giants, and I'm willing to take that shot late in the draft that Hyatt is that guy and is just the number 1 target, has that breakaway speed. He's incredibly fast. Scored a zillion touchdowns against Alabama in college in that one game. After Hyatt came Tua, David Njoku, Thielen, Schultz, Juwan Johnson, Cole Kmet, Devin Singletary, Dalton Kincaid, Foreman, Rodgers, the Ayahuasca Man, Dickey, Dak, Prescott, Kendre Miller, Tyler Algier, Tank Bigsby, Jalen Warren, and then Sam Laporta. So here you can go running back or receiver. Doesn't really matter to me. I think we're going to go running back here. And if Josh Jacobs is to hold out, which he's not going to do, he's holding out now. He's not going to hold out the whole season. I think Zamir White ends up being the lead back there. So that's just the shot we're taking there. Again, it's still early in August, but this is right when people start to pay attention to things. So I figure I mention things like that after Zamir White, Raheem Mostert, and Goddard. Where did Jacobs go in this draft? He went in the 2nd round. I don't know if I'm doing that, like if I'm pulling the trigger right there with Pollard still available, but I am willing to take him in the 3rd round. Like even though there's a risk it's a 0 right now, I think he does end up ending his holdout. So we're going to go with our kicker first here. We're going to go with Justin Tucker, fucker, and then we're going to get a defense. So the defensive strategy, I say this all the time. Not fucking Lizzo. But I do talk about this a ton. For defenses, you just want to draft a defense playing a not-so-hot opponent. Launch. For instance, the Saints get the Titans. They just play the 49ers. That's not a good one. Browns play the Bengals. That's a tough one. It's the Commanders. The Commanders play against Arizona. Week 1 of Clayton Tune or whoever they roll out as the starting quarterback. Colt McCoy and 2 zigzags. Baby, that's all we need. So we got to be in this draft. 84 out of 100. Again, I tell you guys not to look at the draft grade. Like if it says your team sucks, like don't worry about it, if I'm being honest with you. I hope that one of my favorite things is as we get later on in the offseason when you guys leave your team in the comments. I love looking at and being like, wow, crazy, right? There's a lot of people that watch my videos, which I'm very appreciative of, but it's very cool to see that people like literally listen to what I say. They take my advice. They draft teams similar construction-wise to what I do. They draft similar players to me, and it just makes me feel good. It's like, hey, what I do, people are actually listening. I do really appreciate you guys all, though. Genuinely, it means the world to me, the support that you guys show, and views recently have gotten a lot higher. We're getting way more subscribers every single day. I hit 4.5 million views yesterday. 4.5 million views. You know how crazy that is? I know, like, some YouTubers get 4.5 million views on one fucking video, but to me, it does mean everything, and I do appreciate you guys, and I hope that you guys understand that without you, videos are impossible, right? I'm not, like, I like making videos, but realistically, right, if no one is watching, I'm not making 2 videos every single fucking day. I enjoy doing it. It helps me become a better fantasy football player talking about it, but I'd be crazy to say I would do this for No reason, right? I do it because I like doing it. I like seeing the growth of it, and I like helping you guys out. And that's the most fun part, is at the end of the season when I get the comments, Nick, I won my championship. Thank you. That means the world to me. Even the people that say, Nick, I came in third. You know what? I had fun all season. That's just as good. For me, fantasy football is mostly about fun. Obviously, I'm trying to win, but I love football. My favorite thing. And that's why I make all these videos. So again, if you just watch these videos to learn about fantasy football, sorry to get all sappy on you like a fucking pussy, like a bitch back here, but I do really appreciate you guys. So Lamar, McCaffrey, Madison, St. Brown, Waddle, Pitts, Ridley, Ayuk, Manders, Tucker. Our bench is Javonte Williams, Khalil Herbert, Charbonnet, Moore, Jalen Hyatt, and Zamir Whites. Thank you guys all for watching. Again, if you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. This was a longer one. I apologize for that. I like rambling. I like talking about different things. It's just my style. If you watch the videos for a while, you know that. And if you're subscribed, obviously you know that. So I appreciate you guys all. I'm going to try to make maybe some shorter mock drafts, like just like a 20-minute, quick fucking fire straight from the hips. Because normally these end up being like 30+ minutes. I just start talking about random different things. There's like random movie references, sayings, things like that I always talk about. So have a great one. Love you guys. As always. Goop.